Hi crafters, I'm Robbie Susan Chandler from RobbieSusanCardsandCrafts.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Quincy, Florida, right outside Tallahassee, Florida. I'm here to share a project with you, so let's get started. Ooh, wait till you see this card we're going to make today. This is the first time I've ever made this particular fold, and I'm calling it a Z-fold triple strips because you use 3 strips on the front and it's in a Z-fold design. When it folds down to go in your envelope, it looks like this. We're also featuring the countryside corners and the countryside end paper. But let's take a look at all the supplies we're going to use and then we'll start putting this together. Okay, for your base, you need a piece of thick basic white, 7 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches, and I scored it at 1 1/2 and 3 inches. Then your 3 strips, and I used the new boho blue, are 7 1/4 by 1 1/2 wide, scored at 1 1/2 and 3 inches, and you need 3 of those. And then to put on top of those pieces, the countryside end paper we're using is this paper, and when I use these 3 designs, and you're going to cut strips that are 4 by 1 1/4 and then a square 1 1/4 by 1 1/4, and these will go on your strips here. You'll need 3 of those. Let me turn these around because you need the long side to the left. So this is the middle one, this is the bottom one that I used. Turn this one around, get these off. And I use the flowered one, and see you want to match these up as they go across. So you skip a little section there, the long piece, skip a section, and then your little square. And then on the bottom, you flip these. This is the order I put them in. You've got this one and this one. So these are your front pieces. You will also need some Night of Navy, 2 1/2 by 4 1/4, and I use 2 of these, and I'll show you why when we start working on the card. And then you'll need a piece of 3 1/2 by 2 inch paper to cut this white piece. You'll need a piece that's 5 by 3 3/4 to cut this piece, and then a 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, and this is the boho blue, to cut this piece. And all of these pieces, let me put them in size order, were cut with these dies, the countryside corner dies, and I use the top 4 size pieces, largest on down. Okay, so let's get these out of the way. And then you'll also need one more piece of white to cut this wreath, and it's cut from the Natural Prints dies, and I used a 4 by 4 1/4 piece to cut that. Okay, let's start doing some constructing. I'm going to start with the base here, and I've already put my pieces on here, and here's the Z-fold. Now, when you're constructing, make sure you got the Z of the white piece on the left and the Z of the boho blue pieces on the right. And you're just going to put your adhesive on this flap, excuse me, and a little bit up here on this corner. So this one's going to lay here. And I did it even. I don't have a white border there. I just glued it even to the edge. Slide that over. We've got this one, and then you glue this one down, and then you glue. So what I did, I glued the top and then I glued the bottom, and that way you can evenly space that middle one. I found if you try to work top to bottom, you weren't necessarily going to get them all even unless you laid it here on the grid sheet. Alright, so there, and then this one goes here. So when you get those down, this is what you have. And see, it just folds back and forth. Now on the back, this piece was stamped with my sentiment, and I just adhered it to the back of my card. Alright, now let's work on this front piece. This is the fun piece. So I used the Countryside Blossoms embossing folder. I'm going to put my scrap paper towel right here. And this is something I like to do a lot, is put ink on my embossing folder. So let's open this up, and we're going to put ink on the side that has Stampin' Up! On it, so I'm going to turn it this direction. Now, something we discovered in class, when you're putting the ink on the folder, if you tap like this, you get a little bubbly design, and it comes out looking not as good. So we've decided to drag it, just drag it down and drag it down. Now after you drag it, you want to turn it to the other side, lay your white piece, and try to center it right in the middle of that flower. Of course, when you touch it, you'll get a little ink on it, but that's okay. Put this down, and I'm going to go ahead and run it through the Big Shot. I'll be right back. But this gives a really cool effect. We were equating it to like the old blue and white china. I think it's called Death or Wedgwood. See, here's the look we get. Isn't that gorgeous? And I like the kind of the wood grain look as it goes across there. Alright, so we're going to take this piece and we will adhere it to one of the navy pieces. Let me grab one of those. Alright, so this goes right down on here. And I've noticed when you have an embossed piece of paper, it's much better to use liquid glue instead of trying to use tape runner, because the tape runner has a little bit of trouble adhering down in all those little grooves, and does a much better job gluing down something with an uneven background like that. Okay, so now we've got it here to there, a little extra glue there. Let's get that out of the way. Alright, now that we've got this on the front, we're going to put our ribbon across here. This is the Night of Navy ribbon, and I always use a little bit of adhesive on the back. Stick my ribbon down. It seems to work better than trying to use liquid glue. Liquid glue can just become a mess when you're working with a ribbon. Alright, so there's our little bow. So we've got that on the front. Now we need to take our wreath, and I cut it, let's see, right here is where I cut it, but you know what? Right now we're going to pinch it. There we go. And I started right here on this side, just came around and brought it around like this, kind of to encircle it, but only on one side. And I put a little glue here, a little glue there, and this is what I ended up with. And then I put this piece on the back, and that way it hid the ribbon and then any of the white that was on the back. It just gave a more finished look. So now that we've got this piece finished, let's put it on our card front. Now, my advice as far as trying to figure out where to put your dimensionals is go ahead and put 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom, and that way you know you'll hit those areas. But for the middle part, I found it's easier if you just put 2 right here in the middle of these strips. So let's just put these 2 right here, and we'll stick this down. I love the fold of this card just because it's a little bit different than anything I've done before. Alright, let's find the center. Well, you know, I'm going to bring it a little off center, because if I put it in the center, this is going to hang off. So I'm going to put it right about there. And just to keep these pieces down a little bit better, I'm going to put just a few little dots of glue just to kind of hold that there. Maybe one down here to hold this one in place. As you can see, it's kind of flopping around a little bit. We don't want those going crazy. Let's just hold it just for a second. Okay. Alright, so here is our card. Folds up like this to go in our envelope. Stands like this. Here's our back. Sending you smiles for every moment of your day, of your special day. Happy birthday. And that sentiment came from Very Best Occasions, and I used the happy birthday in this one, which I think is a beautiful font, and I like the way they go together. So I hope you like this card. I found it interesting, fun to make, not that hard. I hope you'll try to make it yourself. I also have included a link to a free tutorial you can download, print out to get all the instructions and all the measurements. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. And if you don't have a demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Until next time, happy crafting!